ambitious living began. Rivers echoed to the whistles of paddle wheelers, transporting plantation goods to market. Cities and towns sprang up, and they grew and prospered in the manner of the old world. This was the Dixie of romance and leisurely life, a Dixie that still lives in memory. But today there's a new South, a new tempo. The land of promise has become a land of accomplishment. Signs of progress are everywhere. Business is booming. Existing facilities must be enlarged many times to support the growing need. More housing, more trading centers, more pet sites are the order of the day. Yesterday's countryside is today's suburb, and tomorrow a community all its own. Builders struggle to keep pace. The man in overalls is the man of the hour, for his work spells progress. And in this day, the thunder of construction is melody to Dixie ears. All types of enterprise flourish. Gone is the day of dependence on a single industry or a single farm crop. On southern horizons are sugar refineries, aluminum plants, grain elevators, and a great variety of other enterprises. Shipbuilding shows the brawn of southern industry. Modern shipbuilding practice follows the assembly method. After large sections are welded on the ground, massive cranes take over. The sections are hoisted aboard the vessel in the ways. Aboard ship, they are fitted into position and then secured. Steel mills are an essential part of the industrial picture. Rich ore deposits within the area assure a constant flow of raw material. And everywhere the telephone quickens the pulse of industry. Automobile assembly is a growing activity. In normal production, plants in one Dixie city alone turn out over 1,000 cars every working day. Other factories make millions of tires and tubes to supply the industry and to keep the family car rolling on safe rubber. Textiles represent one of the oldest enterprises of the Mason-Dixon line. Today, impressive administration buildings are matched by a bright future. When it comes to transportation, the South enjoys an enviable position. From her docks, trade goods move to the ports of the world, and the answering inbound flow crosses her wharves in a steadily mounting stream. The call to adventure finds response among passengers leaving on a holiday cruise. Visitors come down the gangway at the all-ashore warning. Then shouted good wishes mingle with goodbyes over the shipside telephone. And smiling passengers line the rail in gala farewell. The ship casts off, and among the passengers excitement mounts. The strip of water between wharf and vessel widens. The big ship gets underway. To what far places will she go? The ports of the New South are gateways to the world. Another vital element in the transportation setup is the railroad passenger and freight service. Diesel-powered trains operate on frequent schedules. Modern airlines crisscross the South to and from its cities and those of other regions. Superhighways, too, are heavy with traffic. Automobiles and buses from all over the nation head south. Many travelers remain to cast their lot with this land of opportunity. Dixie is also a mighty arsenal of defense. The caution, drive carefully, makes plenty of sense at the gigantic billion-dollar Savannah River project, one of America's great atomic energy plants. For here, automobiles crowd the highways in an almost endless line. Traffic into the plant itself must pass rigid inspection. There are no exceptions. Telephone men, working to meet the plant's staggering communications requirements, fall in line for clearance. The oddly designed administration building is the center of a plant area which embraces 315 square miles. The area will be connected by about 66 miles of railroad, 105 miles of superhighway, and 12,000 miles of telephone wire. Try this one for size. A 7-foot pipe, only one section of the 85 miles of underground water lines. From Savannah River, flowing past the project boundary will come the millions of gallons of water vital to atomic energy processes. Water for security, weapon for defense. Defense in the skies depends heavily upon Southern aircraft industry. Adapting the lessons learned in World War II, Dixie workers send both propeller and jet planes zooming from factory runways off the ground and into the clouds to safeguard the freedom of the world. Once again, the South is the #1 training ground for the nation's fighting men. Here it is that defense becomes a very personal matter, as the best of America is conditioned to meet whatever the future may hold. But at night, when the pressure's off, there's always the chance of a telephone visit home. As a morale builder, the voice of a loved one has no equal. Southern Bell's attractive lounge facilities and courteous attendants make that visit home all the more pleasant. When the call is ready, the soldier is directed to the proper booth. The telephone requirements at a military camp are tremendous, but as the calls go through, the welcome words come winging across the distance. Gee, it's good to hear your voice. Wherever you call, the thrill is the same. Outdoor booths get plenty of use. All types of equipment combine to speed the calls of the soldier, the farmer, the businessman, the housewife, and all the others who turn to the telephone to get the message through. So this is Dixie today, land of progress unlimited, land of vast opportunity, where the vision of today becomes the reality of tomorrow. Such a land as this imposes heavy demands on those who would serve her needs. In no other region have telephone requirements been so great. Yes, the South requires many kinds of telephone facilities. In response to the challenge of progress, telephone research has developed many marvelous devices which are helping to meet the increasing communications needs. One of these is the coaxial cable. Thousands of miles of coaxial cable now stretch the length and breadth of Dixie. This wonder cable, buried underground, carries hundreds of telephone conversations simultaneously, and radio and television shows, and news reports as well. Installing the cable is a mammoth job requiring vast quantities of special equipment and plenty of telephone know-how. Frequently, the cable train halts to take on a full reel. New cable is fed into the machine like a huge thread into a needle. With this done, the plow lumbers off again behind the tractors, its slotted blade opening a furrow, feeding the cable into the ground, and filling the trench behind it. Approaching marsh country, the train buckles down to a long, hard pull. Tractor treads almost disappear in the muck, and there's a tense moment until they come churning through. Somehow, they manage to keep going and finally reach firmer ground. It's a little easier going through the piney woods, and eventually men and equipment break through into the open. Once beyond the trees, the train really starts rolling. Where cable ends meet, splicers complete a painstaking job of joining each wire to its other part, seal the splice securely against leakage. While the sections are still being laid, water is reached. This calls for special underwater cable and equipment, which includes a huge cable-laying barge. Alongside the dock, the coaxial is unwound on deck and piled into a king-sized figure eight for convenience in splicing the sections together before the cable goes into the water. Splicing itself is an exacting job. Tubing is cut away so the wires can be joined with the following section. Wire and tube have a common axis, and from this comes the name coaxial. These are the tubes that are today's underground superhighways of communication. The splices are made, then carefully covered with fabric, steel, and lead. The barge now moves from dockside to the starting point. With one end of the coaxial anchored ashore for joining with the land cable, barge and tugs await the start. The signal comes, and the tugs strain in mighty effort. Slowly, very slowly, the barge begins to move. The crossing is underway. There's a heavy tide running. Despite this, however, the barge makes good time. On board, the crew is alert, and cable slides off the figure eight with smooth speed. The final splice passes through the guides to drop astern. The run is over. The coaxial starts ashore. On land, stout trucks with tow line attached strain at their job, bringing the cable end like a giant cobra head crawling from the marsh. The trucks move forward, pulling the underwater cable to the spot where it will meet the land cable. The big moment. This splice adds new voice to the South, linking together city, town, and countryside. One miracle of communications teamwork, the coaxial cable. But today's communications needs are tremendous, and telephone engineers, through radio relay, have also harnessed the airwaves to help in the big job. More and more telephone calls now flash through the air. Radio relay towers with their odd-shaped antennas link far-flung areas of the South in a mighty network, streamlined for expanding telephone requirements. During construction of the radio relay system, crews join parts together on the ground, and waveguides begin to take shape. These guides are tubes through which tiny radio waves pass from antenna to amplifier and back to antenna. Finished sections are soon on their way to the busy crews aloft. Up above, they are caught and swung into position by agile workmen. Two crews starting at the center of the tower, work in opposite directions, one going up, the other down, to speed installation. Work progresses steadily upward as the topmost crew labors with sure-footed efficiency. The 4 waveguides will connect with antennas, which look like giant horns atop the tower. On each platform, 4 antennas work in pairs. One pair picks up the incoming signal and passes it through a waveguide to amplifying equipment below. After being boosted about 10 million times in strength, the waveguide to the companion antenna, which sends it its way. Critical adjustment keeps the radio beam under control. Final adjustment is made, and waveguide and the antenna are joined. This signal can be guided to and from the amplifying equipment below. With installation complete, the equipment is inspected carefully before it goes. Tower height differs with terrain, varying from several hundred feet to a chubby little fellow topping a mountain, but all do the same efficient job. Towers are usually spaced about 30 miles apart. Where possible, existing telephone buildings are used to house amplifying equipment. Though installations differ, all are geared to the one important thing: service. The service is an exacting one, for urgent messages flash overhead and underground as the South depends more and more on her expanding telephone system. Southern Bell has responded by stringing new lines, erecting new buildings, laying new cable, installing new equipment, connecting new telephones, all in record-breaking proportions. And yet the call of the future is for still more and more, for more investments in equipment and service. People. The telephone business is a business of people, for they make your telephone system come alive when you lift your telephone receiver. The friendly operator, the engineer, the construction man, outside plant man, the craftsman skilled in underground construction, cable splicer, line foreman, installer repairman, accounting clerk, and the service representative in the business office. It is these and the other telephone men and women in many different jobs who serve you, whether you're calling across town or across the continent. Southern Bell people take pride in serving this community and the growing South, and helping to fulfill our region's rich destiny. From the promise of the past have grown today's solid achievements. Southern Bell will keep on growing with the new South, meeting her needs and serving her well.